Hello everyone, how you all doing? So today I wanted to talk about how to not let other people's opinions affect us because I get this question over and over again, and of course I have struggled with this myself early on. And this is a tricky scenario. I'm not sure if I'll be able to talk about everything in this live session. I'll just throw in a few nuggets that I think might be handy, and these are some of the little nuggets that has actually helped me to kind of put things in perspective, right? Before I talk about this, I just want to mention that there's a fundamental paradigm behind mental and emotional well-being, right? Which is how acutely we are aware of things that are within our control and things that are not within our control. Because if our expectations are always set on things that are beyond our control, and we are constantly getting triggered by things that we have no control over, then we set up our life for disappointment again and again, right? So that's a fundamental thing. Are you focusing on stuff that you can control, or are you focusing on things that you do not control? What are the things that we control? Our thoughts, our actions, our behaviors. What are the things that we do not control? The weather, natural disaster, calamities, and so many random strokes of misfortune, or and stuff that happens. So if we are always worried about stuff that's outside our control, and we are expecting things to be controlled, then it's not a healthy strategy, because we are counting on hope. Hope is not a good strategy, right? Hope never helps. So we have to have a solid evaluation of the nature of the reality and the people and the stuff that's going on around us, and based on that we have to set up things. Second thing, when we say that that person did that thing to me, that he was hurtful or she was hurtful, or he or she made me feel bad, nobody can make us feel bad. It's something that we do to ourselves, because when you break it down, it's a twofold process. First thing is that person said something or did something. Second thing, we associated a meaning to what he said or did. So that person said hurtful things or good things, and then we stopped, and then we decided that this is what it means. When he said that hurtful thing, it means that he's right about me, and I must feel the pain. Or we can say that even though that person was hurtful, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to work on this, and I'm going to work harder, or whatever, right? So the meaning that we give to what happens to us externally is what determines whether it affects us or not. So you can have an empowering meaning for something that's seemingly hurtful, or you can have a disempowering meaning, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that I have realized, what I've noticed with people that I've been learning from mentors and coaches and all these people who seem to be able to deal with all these scenarios very effectively, it's not that they do not encounter verbal attacks, or they do not encounter people who do not approve what they're doing, or they criticize. It's just that they have a different inner dialogue, and specifically they are driven by intrinsic motivation. So instead of letting themselves get hurt, or get affected by something negative that they have heard in their environment, they change that inner dialogue. They say that in spite of the fact that that person said this, I'm not going to let that affect me, and in spite of the fact that things around me are not proper, I'm still going to continue. So it's an internal motivation, it's an intrinsic motivation. So you basically pump yourself up on your ability to rise out of the seeming adversity, and you feel good about the fact that in spite of resistance, in spite of stuff happening against you, in spite of people being hurtful or being criticizing, you still do what's right, you still do the thing that's right, even though it's difficult, and you derive strength and confidence out of that. So you change. So this obstacle, you flip that in your head, and I've seen that over and over again with all the coaches and mentors and people who I respect, right? And so it's an internal flip. So you basically have to widen that gap between that stimulus. Stimulus is that external event happening to you, that person being hurtful, that person doing something to you, and then you stop. You really put that into perspective. What exactly is going on there? What is he or she trying to actually say? And you really put it into perspective, and you twist it in a manner that it's something that helps you in the long run, right? So you have to widen that gap. Instead of impulsively reacting to what's happening in your environment, just stop. Hold on. It looks ugly, it looks terrible, it looks bad, but hold on. What is exactly going on? Let me deconstruct the truth of what's happening here, right? And then you widen that gap. You give yourself that space between stimulus and response, and you decide whether it affects you or not. Having said that, this is not easy, it takes practice, but this is something that I've seen people do over and over again, and there are people who flip this in their head. Even though that person is against me, even though there is external resistance, I'm going to continue. And they take pride in the fact that they are able to move forward in spite of the seeming resistance, seeming adversity. They're doing the right thing, right? Which is a hard thing to do. And you derive strength from difficulties and resistances and stuff like this. So that's more about intrinsic motivation. You're motivated by your response to things versus external things that's happening in your environment, right? So you have to flip that, change things from external motivation to internal motivation. And another thing is, whenever somebody says something to you, good or bad, we don't have to treat it like Bible, right? So there are two things. When somebody mentions something to it, are they coming from a place of true intention? Do they mean well for you? Secondly, is their evaluation solid? Is it based on solid evaluation of all the parameters in the overall scheme of things in the best interest of everybody? Is that the truth? Because we are this thing called human beings. We are always a work in progress. Every single one of us is trying to figure it out. And it's a very hard thing to get to know ourselves, let alone someone else, right? It's very, very, very hard. At times you'll find that the feedback is very, very valuable, because let's say it comes from your mentor or your coach, or it comes from someone who really cares about you, and they come from a place of strong, good intention. They mean well for you, and their evaluation is right about you, right? And in that case, we gotta listen. Yes, he's right. And we apply that in our lives. We take that. We take the feedback. At other times, you'll find out that they just come from a loose base. They just impulsively lashed out. For whatever reason, they may not be coming from a place of sincerity. They might come from a place of insecurity, or they might be hurting themselves. We don't know where they're coming from. Secondly, they just impulsively lashed out. It may not be solid. The evaluation may not be solid. So whatever they say, we don't have to treat it like Bible, unless that's really the case, unless it's coming from the right source, right? So are they coming from a place of good intention? They mean well. Second thing, is their evaluation solid, proper, thorough? Sometimes yes, many a times it's not the case. Sometimes what they say is really valuable, and we have to really listen to it and incorporate it. Other times there is a partial truth. They'll throw you a nugget or two, and you take that nugget and you throw away the rest. You throw away the garbage. And other times it's just a waste, right? There's absolutely no value in what they're saying if they're not coming from a place of sincerity, and if their evaluation is not in place. If it's just a random impulsive reaction sort of a thing, right? So we really have to step back, because what is seeming bad is not always bad. We really have to step back and deconstruct what's really going on, right? Fourth thing is, if people are saying hurtful things, there's a very good chance that they are hurt themselves. They're themselves broken, right? And we may be tempted to get back. We may be tempted to prove them wrong, but you'll find out that many a time they're already broken. They're already going through a lot. And if you get rid of the packaging, just get to the truth, you'll see that many of them are struggling, and they're coming from a hurtful place, right? So it's all about empathy. You just get rid of the sugar coating, you get rid of the covering, and you get to the truth and see what's really going on. People are really hurtful, and they need help. Many a time you'll find that they need help. And it's more about empathy, and it sounds strange and it's counterintuitive, because we are talking about developing empathy for people who seem hurtful. I mean, we have to get to the reason why they are saying what they are saying. You know, if they are angry at you, there's a very good chance they're angry at themselves. So what is the reason? If they're being hurtful and rude, maybe they're hurting inside. Many a time that's the case. In fact, most of the time that's the case. So it's really hard in the beginning because you'll be very tempted to like lash out and impulsively react to an impulsive lashing out. But if you can really step back and really deconstruct the truth and really get a glimpse of what's really going on, over a period of time, you will actually feel good about the sense of magnanimity that you get from the feeling that you are beyond all these petty little things that keeps us apart or keeps us engaged in things that doesn't lead anywhere, right? So that's a great feeling to have, but it's hard. But with a little bit of awareness, we can get started, and it's really hard. I mean, I'm not saying any of this is easy, but if we have these points that we can consider repeatedly, incrementally, things get better. And our mental, emotional well-being is just way too important to just, keep it at the mercy of stuff that's not in our control, other people's behavior, climate, and bad stuff, right? Because we can always take a good look at what's really going on, and we can flip it in our head, right? And one last nugget would be, so whenever we are, let's say, hurtful, let's say we are drowned in the hurt of so many people who have hurt us in the past, or we have been criticized and stuff like that. So what is it that we really want? Do we want to be in a place where there is absolutely no disagreements, nobody hurts anybody, and there is no verbal attack, and everything is smooth and proper, and everything that we do or say is approved by everybody all the time? Do we want to live in that world? Is that what we want? Because when we say that, people do this, that, this, that, this, that. So what is it that we want? Do we want the opposite? What is the alternative? Nobody ever hurts you, nobody ever attacks you, because that's not realistic. Because there's the number of human beings who get subjected to all these things, these disagreements or, verbal attacks or this and that, in my opinion, I think it's zero. So we have to make sure that our expectations are set on the right things, on a realistic picture. So people are going to come at us, people are going to not approve, people are going to be rude. And that does not mean that we are doing something wrong. It's going to happen because we all are human beings. We all are a work in progress, and we all are working on stuff, right? And we do not always come from a place of sincerity. We do not always come from a place of solid evaluation. Even if we are like that, we cannot expect everybody else to do that, because if you do that, we set our expectations on things that we do not control. What we do have control over is how we respond to all those things. Because the truth is, stuff are going to happen, in terms of people's expectations. They are not going to meet your expectations. They are not going to approve. They're not going to agree to everything that you said. There are people who are going to do that, but when they don't get that, just step back and get to the truth. Put it into perspective. What is really going on? Maybe there is a nugget of truth in what they're saying. So you take that truth, incorporate that into your life. Because if you're really honest with yourself, at times we can be our own worst enemy. So we need some tough love, and that helps us to improve. So that's one part of it. But other than that, you really see what's going on. Is that person coming from a place of sincerity? If yes, is the evaluation solid? Is it thorough? And is it helpful? If yes, we listen to it, we incorporate it into our lives. Other than that, it makes absolutely no sense, right? You let that go, because it's of no use holding on to that or letting it affect you. So when we really take time to step back and deconstruct the truth of what's going on, really try to develop a perspective of the truth of what's going on, because things that appear the way things really are, we really have to take a good look by widening that gap between stimulus and response, right? And taking time to make sure that we only get the gold, the nugget of usefulness that's there in that external circumstance, right? So we don't control what happens in our life. We don't control other people's behavior, but we do control our response to them. And it starts by taking that close look, just not let that first level impression get to us. Just hold on. Yeah, you look terrible. You're not good, but hold on. What's really going on here? Why is he saying it? Why is she saying that? Oh, maybe she's hurting inside. She needs help. Or maybe he or she is fearful. And something like that. So that's all I wanted to share. Let me know if this was useful. I mean, this is a tricky area and there is so much more to it, but these are some of the nuggets that has helped me in the past, and maybe this might come handy to some of you. All right, take care. Bye bye.